What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk to you about SoundHound. Go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and where it could potentially go from here. Before we get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So SoundHound over the last several trading days has had these absolutely horrific pullbacks, and then it just recovers like a beast. Technicals are one to be studied. So if you are looking at learning support resistance points, definitely SoundHound is one to kind of pay attention to. But for this upcoming week though, it is going to be interesting because it is the first full week in almost 2 weeks. So the first one in 2025 as well, and a lot of big data points. So starting off on Monday, not all that much, but you are starting to see more and more this week Fed speakers, and so a lot of that could cause some volatility. I think a lot of people have just gone into this whole sense of euphoria, and sometimes the Fed speakers have a sense of humbling the market, not necessarily in a good way. So just kind of anticipate a lot of volatility. So Monday is going to be more of a technical driven day. You have jolt numbers coming out on Tuesday, so that is a touchy subject, especially in association to Powell. And then speaking of Powell, you do have the FOMC minutes that's coming out on Wednesday. Historically, at least over the last couple reports, they've been seen as very positive by the broader market. So it's caused kind of a nice push higher. Aside from that, you do have ADP employment change. So again, that's coming out on Wednesday. Thursday, the typical same old, so initial jobs claims and whatever else. And then Friday, you have unemployment rate. So right now the forecast is 4.3, non-farm payroll as well. And then, so I think essentially that's going to be a pretty wild ride, but I don't think there is any real reason to be concerned over. Again, some Fed speakers might speak prematurely on interest rates and maybe lack of cutting. That might spook some of the broader market in the short term, but might offer a very good buying opportunity. In SoundHound's case though, they do have this for this week. So between January the 7th and the 10th in Las Vegas, they do have a booth at the CES event. So generally that should be good. From what we know, they are going to most likely have a Lucid Air kind of showcasing their technology, but you never know, anything's possible. They might actually have some presentations lined up that might allude to maybe possibly more partnerships. I think generally a lot of investors that are bullish on SoundHound know its full potential, and I think it's kind of common sense for more entities to really look and gravitate towards SoundHound. And I think it was said best at the latest fireside chat, because they said that sometimes some companies are hesitant, but once they learn that we increase efficiency and also cut costs, then they kind of sign with us. And I think once more big money realizes that, then you'll have more partnerships. So I think this is going to be very good for SoundHound overall. But you are also going to have shorts very, very active this week. And so obviously a lot of the data points I did bring up, they could kind of awaken because of that. But on Friday, they did increase 129,000 shares. 25.6% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 84.4 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost per average is 4.54, and then utilization is 86.55. So obviously I cover quite a few different stocks, and a lot of them have ran up considerably. And even under my Patreon, I list a lot of buy signals on a lot of spec stocks that have ran up a lot. But in those cases, shorts do the logical thing and return. Whoever is shorting SoundHound is very, very interesting, because even just generally looking here, and I brought this up in the past, they are hell-bent on really bringing down SoundHound. So they've been increasing. So for instance, on October the 30th, 22.6% is that short interest, and they've gone nothing but up. So logically, it is fair to assume that this upcoming week they are going to be very active as well, trying at all costs to bring SoundHound down, especially SoundHound for this week, going into this upcoming week. I mean, their technicals are somewhat on the edge, so I'm going to go over that in a second. But as far as the call options that was purchased on Friday, there is a consensus for it to be above $25. So I think that's kind of been the benchmark for a while now. So 25 seems to be the point that the market wants to take it to. The bears, though, they are anticipating for it to be sub roughly 18. So not all that much downside in my opinion, just pretty much on a typical day, it goes back down to 18 in reality. So I think for this upcoming week, there's a little bit more upside based on all that. With the open interest, so with it closing at $20 and change, that does mean the 3,000 at the 2050, 9,000 at 20, and then also 3,000 at 1950, and then 3,000 at 19, all is going to be considered in the money. So market makers come Monday will be buying probably roughly around 1 million shares on the open market, unless they've hedged with call options or something like that. But essentially you could see a bump up on Monday as market makers do cover a lot of those shares. But as far as some support and resistance points, with that $20.62, it is trading between this pivot and this S1. So $20.26 is going to be a very key point for SoundHound. Kind of been flirting with it here and there, so definitely watch for that. 1881 and then 1647 is going to be the following support points. 2260, 2494, and then 2639 is going to be the next strong target / resistance points. So on the actual chart itself, it did close Friday below the ALMA. So going into this week, you have it somewhat pointing towards consolidation. But generally 1496, that is that super trend. As long as it is above that, it should have a nice level of good support from algorithmic trading. So even though you might have a lot of volatility because of shorts, the algorithms will be essentially buying up SoundHound. So I think that's kind of a good thing going into this upcoming week as well. You do have the stochastic RSI very oversold. So if SoundHound does put out a good piece of news associated to, let's say, CES or something else, you could see a rush of value investors getting in to really propel it to, let's say, 25, which is what the actual options is signaling. Plus, if they do unveil something very good, you might see some more analysts jump on board and give ratings, and we already do know what that means for the stock price. Well, assuming it's positive, generally it will go up. So I think all in all, you're going to have a lot of volatility. So going back over here, realistically, dependent on Fed speakers and everything, you could see this S3 being touched, 1647, but at the same time, I think that might just be short-lived, just momentarily touched. But generally for this upcoming week, again, giving a factor to a lot of the data points, I still think that it is going to fight and stay above this pivot point of 2260. But generally, just take note of that $20.26 mark. That is going to be a key pivot for SoundHound. So let me know your thoughts on SoundHound. One point of recommendation from myself: if a lot of you are going to be buying SoundHound anyways, like let's say you wanted to buy 100 shares, you might as well look at doing a put. So sell a put, and that way, if it hits that price, then you get to buy it. If it just goes up from there, you get to keep the premium. So it's a little bit more advantageous all in all, but no matter what, you guys all research options. It can be very profitable and beneficial on any stock if you are bullish and bearish. And I have noticed a increase in the actual amount of volume getting into SoundHound through options. So for instance, just on Friday, there was 30 million in calls, 12 million in puts, and just scrolling down here, that is a lot. Big difference from the last several days. So 41.6 million on Friday, 28.6 on Thursday, and then so forth and so forth. So a lot of money is getting into SoundHound. So in my opinion, a little bit more upside is potentially coming. So let me know your thoughts on SoundHound. I know I did go through a lot of information, but this upcoming week, there's going to be a lot of different things influencing it. So I just wanted to kind of share and confuse you a little bit. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon where I give buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolute bangers. So pop over there and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.